So we've got more comments for Marcus Freeman coming up. Vince, are you ready for some rapid fire?
I'm always ready, baby.
Let's
always
do it.
ready.
So we'll continue with some of the Marcus Freeman comments and conversation from his press conference today. And we've got some more comments queued up and ready to go here. So I'm curious to kind of see where this first one goes, because starting with this, Freeman voluntarily brought up the topic of contract buyouts at the press conference today. And, we'll just, here we go.
During this process, I was made aware of some misconceptions of, what was being said out there. And obviously most of it's just not true, and my wife even showed me a picture of me as somebody out there asking for money for a buyout and had my head on it. I said, listen, I told my wife, that ain't my job now, I said, I thought it was pretty funny. But the misconception of obviously the support, right? At no time during this process did I not have the support of Jack Swarbrick and the administration. And I want to be very crystal clear about that. At no point during this process or since my time that I've been here do I not feel that I've had the support of our administration and Jack. He's offered to pay whatever buyout there's been, right? And that's a part of college football. It's a part of business, right? There are certain buyouts for different people. Jack Swarbrick has never shied away from paying a buyout. Listen, in our line of business, part of college football and college business, we negotiate buyouts. That's any coordinator, position coach that has a buyout, like we talk about those things, right? And we discuss them. But that's not the reason why somebody didn't choose Notre Dame. Let's make sure we get that out there. Two individuals decided that it was best for them to stay where they're at. And much credit to them. Congratulations. We found the guy I feel is the right guy for us. And I just don't want the narrative to be that somebody didn't choose Notre Dame because of a buyout, because it's not true. And I'll say it again and again. That is not the truth. Okay. And
okay. So Vince, that's what he had to say. And again, this was part of he voluntarily brought this up. And yes, Jack was in the room. Jack was standing at the back of the room. And I don't know what you have to say about that.
Yeah.
I'll get into that here in a minute. So there's a lot there. And I know Brian's going to go a lot deeper into this on his show tomorrow. I believe they had mostly a recruiting show today. He posted some stuff on the boards about it today. He's going to share his much more intense feelings about that on tomorrow's show. But what do you think when you hear Marcus Freeman say that?
As I was watching it live, now I was not in the room. I was watching it on my computer screen, right? I just didn't make my way all the way over to campus today because, frankly, I forgot that it was happening. And you texted me about 20 minutes beforehand. You're like, "Are you going to watch?" I'm like, "Okay." I was planning on going, but not anymore. But anyway, I have never, and you could hear it in that soundbite, and I think it was even more prevalent in the audio version of the press conference. He sounded like he had just run there. Okay. He sounded out of breath, which is a tell to me that he was uncomfortable with the speech that he was giving. Okay. It didn't sound like normal Marcus Freeman to me. Now, we've only had a year of Marcus Freeman and what he sounds like, but to me, it just didn't sound like he believed the words that were even coming out of his own mouth. But we've all given that presentation at work where the boss is sitting there in your eyesight. And that's what it felt like. It felt like, okay, am I saying the right thing? Am I saying what I'm supposed to say? Am I towing the company line? Like, that's what it felt like to me. It felt like a presentation where you are giving what the boss wants you to say. That's what it felt like. And I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah, like,
but that's what it felt like to me.
If he wasn't told to address it in some way, it felt like it was at least implied in some way, or, he definitely felt he needed to address it because, again, he brought it up himself. And that was as uncomfortable. And I'm not a body language expert, but when you watch Marcus Freeman at the podium, and I wish I had the video, but it's with all the stuff that's going on, it's typically a little bit easier, just to cut the sound bites. We at least get to hear it. But when you look at Marcus Freeman stand at the podium, he is typically very poised, very cool, very composed, does not move around a lot, does not, have a lot of head movement and all that kind of stuff. When he was talking during that specific cut, he was doing all of the above. He was moving around more, his head was moving around more. There was a lot more sort of animation from Marcus Freeman than you're ever used to seeing
Right.
when he answers a question. There was definitely a different demeanor from him. And as to the Jack Swarbrick part of it, it was interesting because I was wondering going in, will Jack Swarbrick be there today? And so what the setup is inside the stadium. It's the stadium post-game interview room.
Right.
And 3 of the walls are solid. So, like there's no windows or anything like that. Well, on the side, where the tunnel is, I'm trying to describe this for people who have never seen the setup because I know you have, obviously, Vince. The tunnel from the field, like as you leave the field, you walk up the tunnel, and as you get almost all the way up the tunnel, if you look to your right, there is a room with windows, and you can see in the post-game interview room. So that's where we were sitting. That's where it is. And so about 3 or 4 minutes before the press conference is supposed to start, and nobody's there yet, Jack Swarbrick walks up, and he's kind of standing outside the room where you can see him, through the windows, standing outside the room there, and then he waits for the rest of the gaggle to show up, and they all walk in the room together. Marcus Freeman starts off the press conference, and then Jack stands at the back of the room. So literally, like Marcus Freeman
Right in his eyesight.
can lock eyes with Jack Swarbrick anytime he looks in that direction. And I'll just say, for this topic to come up, I was just disappointed that, again, we have no idea if this was determined in advance that, Marcus, you need to bring this up or whatever. Marcus just brought it up on his own. I was just disappointed after everything that happened last week with the reports, obviously. Reports, by the way, that we still feel very strongly about that were accurate.
Yes, especially
based on who we know the sources of those reports are. We felt very strongly about the accuracy of those reports, and then leading up to the email that Jack Swarbrick sent out. I was disappointed that if this was going to come up today, that the athletic director, who is the one calling all the shots on this, whether a buyout's going to be paid, all of this stuff, that he didn't get up and at the very least make a statement, if not spend 5 minutes answering a couple questions about it. As the leader of the athletic department, who was in the room, that's what I would have expected from Jack Swarbrick. And so I was disappointed that didn't happen, and that Marcus Freeman, essentially, who, Marcus Freeman could want Andy Ludwig or whoever, but he's obviously not the one who's signing that check and making that call on any buyout. So buyouts might happen all the time, but Marcus Freeman is the middleman. He's not the one, making the final call on that. The guy who was making the final call was standing in the room and never spoke to the media. And I just feel that that's disappointing.
I agree. The fact that he put Marcus Freeman in that position sucks. I mean, flat out, that's not good leadership. And you should be the tip of the sword on that, so that Marcus Freeman doesn't have to answer those questions. You go up there, you give a statement. This is what happened. If you want to say whatever you want to say, this is what happened. Marcus Freeman has no part of it in any way anyway. So he's not going to answer those questions. I'm the leader of the university on the athletic side. I'm going to answer those questions. And that didn't happen. He's in the back of the room.
And, there's no follow-up on those, no follow-up questions on that subject, because everyone in the room knows what I just said.
Right.
Why ask Marcus Freeman? He's not the one who needs to be answering that question.
Exactly.
The guy standing at the back of the room looking at him is.
Right.
And that's, and like Freeman talked about, these guys, didn't, not choose Notre Dame because of a buyout. Somebody didn't not choose Notre Dame because of a buyout. And again, it's semantics and at very best partial truths, because you can say, well, they didn't make that decision. Well, ultimately you made the decision, allegedly, I guess, about the buyout. And that was, the tipping point in why that person, it's not that the person didn't choose to come to Notre Dame. Notre Dame chose not to go through with the buyout. So that eliminated those people.
Correct.
or that person from Notre Dame.
And if you went back to him 2 days later and said, "Oh, no, we'll pay the buyout," at that point, it already went back and said, "I'm staying," and all of that. Now you're infringing on his credibility. Of course he's going to say no, but that's a cover your butt move, right? It is what it is. And of course we want to move on. We want to take that next step. We don't really want to talk about this stuff anymore, but it just keeps coming up, and it keeps coming up because of the spin that is happening. And like you said, I echo what you said. I'm disappointed that Jack didn't go up there and take those darts, because that's what you should do. That's what leadership is.
Leaders got to take the bullets, man.
Right.
I saw Tommy Gunn's talking about his time in the military. I served in the military, and there's plenty of other. I saw USMA 87 is, there's a lot of veterans here. Everyone knows chain of command rolls downhill. And what that means is the guy at the top, good or bad, has to be the one that's answering for it. And the guy at the top didn't answer for it today. The guy below him did. And
that's a shame. Like I understand why people are upset with what Marcus Freeman said. I get it. But I don't know that he's given much of a choice. I will say that. I don't know that he was given much of a choice. And he didn't sound the most comfortable to me saying what he said.
Correct.
That tells me that he didn't really want to say what he said. So that tells me he was told to say it. Yeah. Again, extrapolation on my part, no doubt about it. But that's how I feel.
We have to infer because we have other knowledge beyond what was just said.
Massive knowledge
at a press conference today. Super chat. We appreciate it from Lou Holtz and Thunderbolts. Do you think Coach Marcus Freeman's reinforcement of the admin fully supporting him was also about sending a message to us players that there are no excuses in 2023, that we have all the guys / resources we need to win?
At the end of the day, I think you can say all of that. I do. I don't think that was Marcus Freeman's message. I don't think it was his message at all. And so I think you could extrapolate it that way. I think his faith in Gerad Parker is 100% real. And I think he's not going to spin that to his players. He's going to tell them this was the best guy for you guys. This is the best guy for us. And I think he wholeheartedly believes that, right? I don't think what he said today was a message to his players. I think it was the message that was given to him to say. That's what I think.
Yeah. And I mean, at the very least, you do want to keep a, public unity, a message of public unity out there, both for the fan base, for the players, for everyone else. Guys on the staff know what happened. And I'm sure that there are probably some players who actually know what happened, because these coordinators met with coaches and stuff like that during the process.
Right.
Yep. I wonder if Marcus Freeman had to go take a shower after having to say that with Jack Swarbrick.
I bet he was sweating. I mean, it's sweating through those expensive shirts that he wears.
Yep. USMA 87, contrarian view, IB has different reports. Who from Notre Dame would want Jack or Marcus to look bad by saying the buyout was the obstacle? I mean, again, I get that they're not going to, they're not going to say that publicly.
They'll never say that publicly.
But Marcus Freeman brought this up without being asked the question. He went from talking about how excited he was about Gerad Parker, being the guy, to the criteria of what he was looking for, the comment that we played earlier, the criteria he was looking for the next offensive coordinator. And then he went into that spiel about buyouts without being asked about it. I wonder if it would have been asked of him if he hadn't brought it up of his own volition.
I think it would have, just because you didn't get access to Jack. I think somebody would have asked the question. I don't know who has the cojones to do it, but I think somebody would have asked it, at least somehow. You know what I mean? They would have tried to beat around the bush, whatever. So I give him a lot of credit for actually just coming right out with it. But I'm sorry, he looked uncomfortable saying it. He looked uncomfortable. So I'm going to give Marcus Freeman a pass, because I don't think those are his words. I really don't. More and more I think about it, the more and more I listen to it and watch it, I don't think that was Marcus Freeman. I think he was told what to say. He didn't look comfortable. You know when he looked comfortable? When he was talking about Gerad Parker and what a good offensive coordinator he's going to be.
Are you telling me that was a hologram of Marcus Freeman standing in front of us today?
I mean, I
Is
am
that
watching the new season of Picard, so I've kind of got that in my head, but
okay?
yeah.
All right. Mr. 2.0, do you guys think the backlash will push the Notre Dame administration to put more into the program going forward? It felt the first time I've seen the fans cause a ruckus, at least in a little while. You know what? I tell you what, hold off on that
Okay.
because I've got a another soundbite that I want to play that
Ooh.
kind of goes along
Okay.
with this. I think. Where is it? I'm trying to remember. Didn't I have three? Yeah. So along the lines of buyouts, one of the recurring concerns is by fans, obviously, alums, whoever,
Mhm.
just how committed Notre Dame is to actually winning national championships. And that was asked today, how Freeman feels about the commit.
True.
Is Notre Dame actually committed to winning championships?
There's any other way that they can show more commitment to us having success. I mean, that could be with coaching salaries, that can be with NIL, that can be with the support of our football program and continue to enhance everything we do, facilities, training table, whatever it is that we believe our program needs to continue to climb to the mountaintop. I've had full support by the administration and Jack.
Vince?
I'm sure he feels that way too, with the last situation notwithstanding, I'm sure he does feel supported, right? And I think, you got the brand new indoor facility, you've got all the upgrades to the football facility. We've heard a million. Now here's where I get a little iffy. We've heard a lot about how they're going to renovate the Goog. I haven't seen a wrecking ball or I haven't seen any construction trucks out there yet. And I've heard about this for a few years now. So look, I think that Notre Dame sees the value in a national championship. I also see that they're not willing to sell their soul to get one. So are they committed to a national championship? Yes, they think they are. Are they from the outside looking in? I got a little bit more of a hesitation there.
Yeah, I felt like his response was not a total word salad, but it was as close to a word salad as you can get without
Yeah.
being a word
Mhm.
salad. Like,
Mhm.
there was like, some Jello salad with some fruit mixed in, those kind of, not like total tossed lettuce and everything that you throw in the bowl and,
Yeah.
toss it up, because he said some stuff. Again, he kind of gave the answer that you would expect. Like, you talk about the Goog, and I'm not making an excuse for Notre Dame on this, but I do wonder, because like you said, that's been talked about for a few years now. But since the pandemic, these last 3 years, construction costs, material costs, all that stuff have gone up.
Sure.
And now,
Oh, yeah.
now again, I realize you say, well, it's just like with the buyouts, it's Notre Dame. They've got the money, blah, blah, blah. Well, when it comes to any facilities being built or upgraded or whatever, the money has to be in hand. So they might have had, or been close to a set amount of money in hand. But once the pandemic hit and all the construction costs doubled, that can change what the amount in hand has to do. That means you've still got more fundraising to do. Now,
Absolutely.
I still have like full confidence that if they really want to get it done, there are donors who would
Yes.
rain money on them to get it done if the point is made that it's a priority.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
And he probably heard from every one of those donors over the last week and a half. So
I'm sure.
I guarantee you there are plenty of donors out there that would love to pour money into the football program. I have no doubt in my mind that would be the case.
Derek is, at the end of his rope right now. For the first time ever, I want Sean to talk about Cowboys, women's basketball, or NASCAR. And I don't know where NASCAR came into the picture, because
the Daytona 500 was a good race.
We'd have to get Vince's son Dylan to come on here and talk NASCAR if we were going to talk NASCAR.
Well, about 10 years ago, yes.
He's not into that anymore?
No.
Oh, it's kind of disappointing. I thought it was.
I know. That was all parlayed from the Cars movie.
Nice little father-son thing. What was that?
I know.
Something McQueen. What's that?
Lightning McQueen.
Yeah, Lightning McQueen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It doesn't, Kurt Busch doesn't have the Mars sponsorship anymore, so he doesn't drive the M&M's car. So, the The love affair is over.
See, like if you hadn't said Kurt Busch, I probably couldn't even name
Kyle
NASCAR.
Busch. I'm sorry, Kyle Busch is
any of them.
Eminem's car.
Like, I couldn't name a NASCAR driver right now.
Ryan Newman, the local guy.
Okay, so this is. Do you want to play this thing about the hockey game? Do you want to talk about this thing with the hockey game, or
We
do you
don't
just
have
want move
to.
on at
I
this
mean,
point?
if you want to play it, you can. But
where are we in the show right now?
7:16.
You want to address it?
Let's do it.
Okay. So he was asked about taking Andy Ludwig to the Notre Dame hockey game a couple days before everything blew up.
We won, correct? So we bring our top recruits into this place. And guess what we did with them on Junior Day? We took them to the hockey game because Coach Jackson does an excellent job, and that's a great environment. So we're not hiding the point of that we brought a guy in that we wanted. So we took him to the hockey game. And he ended up not coming here. That's okay. I don't want to hide because I'm worried about, well, somebody might think that this guy turned us down, or this guy said, no, he made a decision that's best for him. But I don't want to hide the fact of what makes Notre Dame great, right? If we're going to bring our top recruits to the hockey game, then why not bring an offensive coordinator candidate to the hockey game? Because why? If we don't get them, people are going to say, well, you tried and you lost. That's life, you know? He decided to make a decision that was best for him. I wouldn't change that if I had to. We want to put our best foot forward. We're not trying to hide and say, hey, let's interview guys, and we don't want anybody to know because somebody might say you didn't get the guy you're going after. That's okay. That's life, you know, and we won't hide that. We won't, in the future, if we are interviewing somebody else, guess what? We're going to put our best foot forward and try to show them everything that's great about this place. Why hide? Well, that's not what we want to do.
Buy or sell it, Vince.
I get what he's saying, but I don't think that's why they went to the hockey game. How about that?
I don't either. I think they were showing the guy off.
if I'm not mistaken, the media that was there was tipped off that they were there so that they would get pictures. So I don't buy it. I get the reasoning. I think that's a great response. I mean, it was a great response because they do take the recruits to hockey games. Great. If you want to take them to watch a quality program, take them to the women's basketball program game. Marcus goes to all those anyway.
I was going to say, Marcus goes to all the women's basketball games.
And they had one of those, but anyway,
one of the men's games.
Neither here nor there.
Yeah.
They didn't parade Klein around. Now I realize he was there during the week, and there were no hockey games and there were no basketball games while he was there. It was a Tuesday, I believe, so there was really nowhere to parade him around. But look, I believe that they're parading him around because he was the choice, and they wanted everybody to see that they were giving him the royal treatment. Okay, didn't end up working out, and I have no problem with the fact that it didn't work out. And it didn't work. It didn't not work out because they took him to the hockey game. But I feel like that wasn't why they took him to the hockey game.
Yeah. You're not taking him there to a very public place like that on campus if it's not pointing in the direction
correct
that he's going to be if he's not your guy.
It's not like they walked him around campus and took him to Smash Burger. They took him to the hockey game. Like, come on.
They took Klein to Dairy Queen.
That's probably why he said no. But no. Just kidding.
That's right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was a really good response to the question.
It was.
Very good rationale. He backed it up. Hey, we take the recruits to hockey games. Okay, cool. You know, like, but when you're Marcus Freeman, just like when he goes to all these Notre Dame women's games, there's always cameras on him. And when Marcus Freeman shows up at the hockey game, and Andy Ludwig is sitting right next to him, as you were talking about, everyone knows there's going to be a lot of photos going around. And if you're Notre Dame, you're not making that play unless you think that that's your guy.
Right.
I just don't think you do.
Yep, I agree.
All right, a couple more questions before we wrap it up tonight. This one's just for Derek because I know what an XFL fan Derek is. Made its debut this weekend. And Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk says, an alternate league like the NFL would have more luck and, long-term success potentially if they played their season in the middle of the week during the NFL season rather than, like right now during the spring, a standalone type season. Do you buy or sell that?
Huge sell. Huge sell. And here's why. I think the XFL is doing something pretty smart right now. If I heard the quote right, and I think I did because it was obviously a lot of PR out there this weekend, so it was the opening weekend and all that. They've got a 10-week schedule, and that's going to go right up to like rookie mini camps, essentially. And that's perfect timing. This is like a 10-week tryout for a lot of these guys. And I think that is more along the lines of what the NFL would want in one of these sub leagues than something that's going on at the exact same time. Because even with the USFL, that's going to be more of a summer league as opposed to a spring league, because it doesn't even start until the middle of April, I believe. And that's going to go through training camps.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to bring in guys who have gone through an entire season of USFL and then bring them into an NFL camp just for fall camp. You want them there over the summer, OTAs, all of that. The XFL is positioned calendar-wise, I think, to be a much better feed-in to what the NFL schedule looks like. I think they would get washed out. There's too many college games. There's too many NFL games. They would get washed out if they were at the same time.
See, but based on what you're saying, like, one, I think these all, no matter when you play them, the alternate leagues are going to have a hard time. The only way that one of them is ultimately going to be able to succeed, because the USFL will be back, just like you said, like Joe was asking about. The only way they're going to be able to succeed is if they have a more direct link to the NFL. So to an extent, I buy what you're talking about, lead into mini camps and all that different kind of stuff as their season is winding down. You're giving the NFL, you're getting some publicity. But I think playing on Wednesday night, because then you've got football on Wednesday night, you've got NFL on Thursday night. Of course, you got high school, some college on Friday. You've got college football Saturday, and then you go Sunday NFL, Monday NFL. You've only got one day of the week off. Maybe even play some Tuesday night games if you're the XFL. And I think if you have, that, like, as guys get injured during an NFL season, the XFL might not like it, but if they have a more direct link to the NFL, like if a number 2 running back gets hurt, for the New York Giants, I didn't say Dallas Cowboys, the New York Giants on Sunday in the, some XFL stud running back is doing great, then boom, you sign the XFL guy and he's part of an NFL roster. And that's good for the XFL, if they can become a feeder league for the NFL. So I can see what you're saying with, like, you think that, this time of year is good because it's leading up to draft and you can evaluate some of these players before the draft and maybe think about, maybe give some serious consideration to them. I could see some validity, like for the football nuts and especially the gamblers, you get it on the sports wagering apps where, like, you've got football almost 7 days a week if you throw the XFL into the mix during the season.
Sean, I would have flunked out of college if I didn't have Tuesday and Wednesday to do homework. Okay? Like, we literally sat down in our apartment of like 4 guys and we're like, okay, Tuesday and Wednesday are these are the days that we got to focus and we got to get our work done because we're going to be watching football Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So I would have flunked out of college. It would not have gone well for me. I just like it better as a standalone, working its way into the NFL as opposed to at the same time. I just think that's football overload. And on top of that, if you've got the product of the NFL, the product of college, and the product of the XFL all going simultaneously, I think that would actually pull the XFL down a little bit. Because right now there's nothing to compare the XFL to.
See, but like all these leagues, the XFL included, and the US, these are reboots. It's like not only are TV shows doing reboots from shows 30 years ago, like pro football leagues are doing reboots as well. And they've both tried before. They've both tried alternate, spring and summer type schedules, and it just doesn't work. There's just never fan interest there. And that's a big problem. And I still, really doubt the longevity because of that, whether they're in season or out. Can you actually generate enough fan interest, sell enough tickets? Will the TV contracts be there? All those things, but again, there's nothing on TV right now but streaming shows and reality shows. So if you put football games on Tuesdays and or Wednesdays, during the regular football season, I think that you'd probably have a better shot of getting a decent audience than most things that are on TV right now. That might interest some TV networks. I don't know.
Well, the stuff that's on TV right now, there is nothing, right?
Yeah.
It's so that's why I think it's positioned well for right now. And they have their TV deal with ESPN, ABC, is the XFL. USFL, I think, has a deal with maybe Fox. I'm not 100% sure, but they got their TV deal. Let's see how this thing goes. It feels this weekend, I watched a bit of all 4 of those games. I watched Jack Cohn's entire game, right? I feel like right now it's a better product than they ever had XFL wise. I think it doesn't feel gimmicky. It feels like a good product. So we'll see how long it can last. There was a decent number of fans all around. Yes, it was opening weekend. We'll see how things go as they move further. But I also like the fact that they're not in just one hub city and called the Seattle Sea Dragons or whatever like the USFL did last year. So we'll see how it looks. But right now, I kind of liked it. I enjoyed it.
We got a couple offensive line super chats. One from JoJo. Thanks, JoJo. Any O-line coach intel? Hope Coach Freeman gets him. Excuse me. And then Mark, good show, guys. Very interested in what the offensive players' roles and the new OC is going to display. Any thoughts? And again, like what exactly, that looks like and players. We'll get some dabbles of that in the spring. The offensive line information.
It's very tight-lipped right now.
Very tight-lipped. I don't know if it has to do with, any of the other topics we've been talking about on this show, but it has been very tight-lipped.
Yep. I haven't seen anything, if I'm being honest. And they talked about it a little bit in the press conference. And, Jared Parker said he's got a long list that they're vetting basically right now. So that list will shrink. And when it does, I have a feeling some of those names will leak.
Yep. Tyler says he's finally able to watch live. He says he's always watching Brian and Ryan while he's doing his mail route. Finally, no kids able to watch these guys. Keep coming. Thank you very much.
I hear you. My kids are at the arcade right now, so I got the whole house to myself.
Mm-hmm. Could have presented that in the form of a super chat, though, too. We'd appreciate it. Final question for the night. Fill in the blank. It's blank that after finishing last season at the College World Series, Notre Dame baseball opened this season by losing 2 of 3 games in a series against Lipscomb.
It's a little disturbing. It's not the end of the world, obviously. Baseball is a long season. They're still trying to get their feet under them with a new head coach, and they lost some talent, et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't have a chance to watch any of those games, so I can't really speak to some mistakes that were made. I heard there was a lot of hit batsmen in the 3rd game. And so, we'll see how it goes. But it's not a great start. It's not a great start to win 1 out of your first 3 against a subpar opponent, or at least you would think would be a subpar opponent. So
no, that's I mean, and that's part of this is like you go south and all that, and which Notre Dame always has to do at this time of year, and all the northern teams have to do at this time of year because there was snow on the ground, in South Bend when they left town this weekend. No one gets to Omaha in mid-February.
No.
Plenty of pulmonary teams started off very slow, like his actual College World Series team notoriously started very slowly. They were under 500 for a while and ended up kicking it into gear down the stretch. You don't expect to go to Nashville and lose 2 out of 3 games.
Yeah.
Lipscomb, though. And you don't expect to go 10 for 91 at the plate for the weekend. That's the biggest thing that jumps out to me, not overreacting to the wins or losses. How competitive were you in these games? And they had to come back in the late innings just to win the middle game in the series. But Link Jarrett had a very specific offensive approach, and it served them very well. Sean Stifler is not Link Jarrett, and I'm not saying that in a pejorative way. He's still a really good head coach, but he has a completely different system. He's not going to implement that same kind of system. And I'm pretty confident saying if Link Jarrett was the head coach, I don't think they'd probably have that kind of weekend at the plate based on everything, that we saw with these guys' abilities to grind out it. Their thing was winning games in the late innings. Again, this team won 1 game in the late innings, but they lost the other 3. And there were some issues. The bigger thing with this, and again, every coach is going to have his own philosophy. I get it. But you start off with a 3-game series at Lipscomb. You start off with and then you follow that with a 3-game series at UNC Greensboro, and you follow that with a 3-game series at Alabama Birmingham. And I know for a fact, like San Antonio used to be a big base location. There's a huge Notre Dame club of San Antonio. A guy named Ben Davis has always, he used to help put on this tournament down there. A couple of the other coaching staffs kind of got away from that. But like, you shouldn't be playing all these 3-game series on the road to start off the season. You should either be going to San Antonio, doing an event like that where you can put on your own tournament, bring in some different teams, and or you go on the road and you get like 3 teams involved. You play each team twice, like a total of 4 games. Or you play, one team twice, 1 game once. Like the lasting, scheduling philosophy that Paul Mainieri sort of enlightened me on is you don't play 3-game series if you're Notre Dame, in these early portions of the season, because what happens is if you go on the road and you play a team twice, you still get some RPI credit for splitting those 2 games. But like what Notre Dame just did, winning 1 of 3, which means they lost 2 of 3, you're not getting any RPI credit for that. And you're opening up the season with 3-game series like that on the road. So hopefully they get away from that in the future. There's nothing they can do about that now. But, again, not going to put everything on one weekend. Hopefully they get better.
No, absolutely. And hitting's all about timing and everything else. And your hitting is what struggles the most up front in the season. That's the hardest part to get going. It just is. And so am I surprised that they went 10 for 91? Yeah, a little bit. But again, not that much, because hitting is really difficult, especially when you're going on the road, your first series, all of those different things. Hitting is going to be the last thing that comes around. So give it a few weeks, let them play at home a few times. Like, let's see where this thing goes once they start, the conference season and things like that.
Yeah. Decaf 18 says it was a bunch of unearned runs in the second game. That's how they won. And, there you go. So the other team committed some errors and it helped Notre Dame. Now the other side of that means is, even though they didn't get hits, they were putting the ball in play and yada, yada, which is good. But you got to keep getting better every weekend. Like you said, it's a long season and you want to see them continue to grow. I think, like everybody, a little bit surprised to see him drop.
I was too, especially to a team like that. So, but it is what it is, and see what happens.
That would be incorrect, Derek. I don't know if you're just joking and you're trying to pile on everything on Jack Swarbrick, but each coach actually makes their own schedule, and then the athletic department, except for football, yeah. But then the athletic department signs off on it after the end,
right?
Like after they look at class days missed and all that kind of different stuff. It has to go through all that process. But yeah, the schedules of everybody but football gets to entirely make their own schedule. So, all right, Vince. Well, we had a long run tonight.
Yeah, we did
tonight. LOL, it was Ron then.
Well done, Derek.
Touché.
Well done. That's a mic drop moment.
That's right.
Moment.
We'll drop ours. Go ahead.
I was going to say, lots to talk about, obviously, with the press conference today. I would highly suggest everybody tune in tomorrow at 1:00. I believe that is when their show is going to be. Brian's going to have a lot more to say on the matter, and I don't blame him. So hopefully we can all move on. The bottom line is this is Notre Dame staff. They're still looking for an offensive line coach. We'll see what direction they go in there. But this is the team. Like, this is the coaching staff that we have to report on. This is the coaching staff that we have to teach these kids how to win. And at the end of the day, I think we can all agree we want Notre Dame to win. So let's see what happens. That's the fun part about covering a team like this. So, I trust Marcus Freeman. I do. And maybe he didn't get to Gerad Parker the way that we wanted him to get to Gerad Parker, but he did. And I think he is sleeping very well at night because of it.
Outcome is all that matters.
Yep.
Results are all that matters. Does he put up results? That's ultimately what it's going to come down to.
Absolutely.
First bad game, everyone's going to be crying about nepotism, basically. Whatever
I know,
you
right?
want to call it.
Let's wait for it.
Yeah. All right, well, hit the like button on your way out. We appreciate it. Of course, it helps Irish break down subscribe, rate, review, comment, leave us a 5-star rating on your podcast platforms. We'll get, I promise, more into the Gerad Parker aspect of things tomorrow. He had a lot to say today, had a lot of really good things to say, some interesting things to say, and we will get more into that on tomorrow's show. You know, whether, as Chi-Town says, whether he felt like a consolation prize or not, well,
That's
I'll
fine.
let you hear some of his thoughts tomorrow and see what you think. Vince, I will talk to you then. Or I guess I'll talk to Jesse then, but I will talk to you later.
Mailbag on Wednesday, baby.
That's right.
Whoop, whoop.
IB Nation Sports Talk. We'll talk to you later.